the qualifiers are done. We know the qualified teams. Cameroon got the job done with a seemingly comfortable 3-0 win against Burundi. How did they look in your opinion?
Yeah, I think seemingly is the key word. Look, this was a do or die moment for Cameroon. Playoff essentially qualifier. They had to beat Burundi playing at home. If they drew, and as we went through in our last podcast, unless it was a 4-4 draw or higher, Cameroon would be knocked out. And of course, if Burundi won, Cameroon would be knocked out. They got the job done 3-0. I think I wouldn't say a comfortable performance. I would say a nervy one. They really struggled in the first half, and actually. I would say the best player in the first half was their goalkeeper Andre Onana coming back into the team, made a couple really good saves. As Burundi actually were the team taking it to Cameroon and looked better, but just after the second half started, Burundian mistake defensively, big lapse in defense allowed Brian Mbeumo to strike home, and then a Francis Nkwayine favorite Christopher Wu, Cameroon centre back, then scored off a corner, and then in the last minute, guess who? Oh, as always, Vincent Valsa Abubakar kind of put the icing on the cake. But again, from very much a Burundian mistake. So, job done for Cameroon. They're into that AFCON. Am I inspired by them? Am I filled with a lot of hope for them going into the tournament? I would say absolutely not. There's still a lot for them to prove, and a lot for Rigobert Song to prove going into the tournament.
Well, Alistair, maybe expand on that. How are they shaping up ahead of the AFCON?
Yeah, I think, for me, there's still a lot of uncertainty around this Cameroonian team. I think, the best example is Andre Onana, of course. He said he would come back for this Burundian game, and that was it. And so now they've gotten through the Burundian game. They have to negotiate with him again to see, will this work? Can he play in the AFCON? And we won't see that organized and settled by the next international window next month in October, but we'll see. And I think that's part of it. And in their defensive pairing,
Do you think he's going to stay?
I think he will be convinced. I think, partially him having a great performance, getting the team through,
Mhm.
clearly there's a lot of support and pressure on him to be a part of this team,
Mhm.
both within the camp, but also, externally, but, in terms of the government. But I think, the problems go beyond that. I think we look at center back, Christopher Wu scored a goal, looks confident, looks composed. He looks like he's nailed down that center back spot. But who's next to him? Is it Mbaizo? Is it Gonzalez? Is it,
Mhm.
does Castelletto come back? We don't know. Zambo Anguissa in that midfield, who's partnering him? Olivier Kemen has done it recently, but even Zambo Anguissa, as we spoke last week, has not been hitting right form. And again,
Mhm.
up front, we know Cameroon have fantastic scorers and finishers in Buemo, Tokyo Kambi,
Mhm.
Choupo-Moting, and of course Abubakar. But where's that creativity? So I think for me, even against Burundi, there wasn't a lot of carving open chances. If anything, Burundi were the more, threatening side. So I think with Cameroon, they got the job done. They kept a clean sheet. They got Onana back in the team. But for me, I want to see, okay, where are the next steps? And I think we'll see that in the next two international windows before the AFCON. But I think Rigobert Song has a lot of work to do.
Sure. Moving it away from the Indomitable Lions, one of their former coaches, Hugo Bruce, is working with South Africa. 9 games undefeated. They beat the Democratic Republic of Congo in their most recent game. I declare an interest. Are Bafana Bafana that good? Are they one of the continent's leading forces? Are they the favorites going into the AFCON? That was a joke on the ladder, but
I would love to say yes, Zayn, but I think they've done fairly well. Like you said, 9 games unbeaten. They've kept 4 clean sheets in that time. The only team that they let in score more than one goal is Liberia in that kind of chaotic and calamitous 2-2 draw when they conceded those late goals. And so I think, and they also got that 2-1 win at home against Morocco, and so they've actually topped the group, which is pretty remarkable, considering they had probably the most informed African team coming into it, semi-finalists of the World Cup. But I think like Cameroon, there's a lot of questions around South Africa. You look at the run, the only team that they played that was of a high caliber was Morocco. Maybe you throw DRC in there as well as a very good team. But actually, I also want to make the point that this, I don't, and I haven't seen anyone talking about this, but I think this game against DRC was far, far more important than anyone thought because again, we were talking about doing my creative maths last week, but this week I was doing more creative maths. And South Africa came into this game against DRC as the 12th highest ranked side in Africa. And DRC, after their win against Sudan my calculations are correct, would have been one place behind them in 13th. So actually, if the DRC had beaten South Africa, DRC would have jumped above them into 12th. And what is 12th place? That is the second seeded in the second pot at the AFCON. And so by winning, by getting that result, South Africa have actually secured that second seed in second pot, I think, in the AFCON draw, which is a huge difference in terms of who they'll play at the AFCON. So I think that's a big thing that should be celebrated. But again, South Africa, we seem to have a bit more of a back four. Players seem to be claiming those positions. Like Maela, like Mvala, like Nkosi. But there's still a lot of questions to be asked. Albas has come in the midfield and looks really good, but who's playing alongside him? But I think, and even up front, Percy Tau isn't hitting it. There doesn't seem to be a centre forward. But I think the big takeaway from this international window is that Lyle Foster is the real deal for Bafana Bafana. I think the Burnley player, he scored the one goal today. Yeah, it's his fourth goal in 11 appearances for Bafana Bafana. He's looking good for Burnley. He didn't look as good when he was played up front in the game against Namibia, but when he plays in that number 10 role, when he's linking up with Percy Tau, I think he looks really good, and I think that is the biggest positive for South Africa is they have a lot of decent options in that forward line. Players who look fairly good at time, Temba Zwane, Percy Tau, these kind of players. But it looks like Lyle Foster's the real deal, and if they can build that attack around him, I think actually Bafana have a really good chance of progressing in that AFCON.
Well, Alasdair, this is a bite-sized edition. Thank you so much for casting your eye on the qualifiers and giving us your analysis. And if you agree or disagree with Alasdair, please find us on our social media platforms. We are on X, formerly known as Twitter, and Instagram at OTW_podcast. It's going to take me a little while getting used to calling Twitter X or X Twitter. And if you want to post comments on our Facebook page or our YouTube channel, just search for us at the On the Whistle podcast. We certainly love hearing from you. We love listening to you. We love your ideas. Keep the free-flowing conversation going. As always, Alasdair, it's been a pleasure having you on. Africa's biggest football braai. It's been fun, and I can't wait to see you soon.